Kaine.
Thank you to my colleagues and thank you to the witnesses for your service. Secretary Liu, I would like to begin with you if I could. Virginia is home to one of the largest Uyghur American communities, proudly so. China has monitored and harassed these individuals on U.S. soil for their advocacy, but they've also monitored and harassed their family members in China, imprisoning some of them, and we're working on a number of constituent cases because of this. The domestic policy of China toward not only Uyghurs, but Kazakhs and Kyrgyz minority groups in China who do endure horrific atrocities and human rights abuses is important. Talk to us about your engagement regarding the PRC's atrocities against ethnic groups.
Senator, my last job before this one was ambassador in the Kyrgyz Republic. I engaged every person I could in the government about the situation in Xinjiang, and was surprised to find very little interest in the Kyrgyz Republic about the genocide happening there. And as you've suggested, it's not only Uyghurs, there are ethnic Kyrgyz people related to people in the majority in Kyrgyzstan, and they were not willing to raise their heads or to call out what's happening there. And I think this goes back to Senator Young's views that economic coercion really works in this part of the world, that the Chinese have loaned so much money to some of these governments, they are unwilling to be seen as angering Beijing, even when it comes to emotive issues like the treatment of fellow ethnic people very close by into China. If I could add one other issue that I think gets very little attention, in Kazakhstan, they also have not raised publicly human rights abuses in Xinjiang, but they are successfully helping ethnic Kazakhs to leave China. They're doing this in cooperation with the Chinese government under the rubric of family reunification, but thousands of ethnic Kazakhs have been able to leave Xinjiang to find lives in Kazakhstan, have been fast-tracked to citizenship and provided assistance and housing. I think that's something we should celebrate.
I appreciate you mentioning that. I want to ask now a question about security assistance. The National Guard State Partnership Program has been a big success. I know many of my colleagues talk about the partnerships they have. Virginia seems to have an unlikely partnership as far as I'm concerned, but it's been a successful one with Tajikistan, and there has been direct military-to-military contacts, training in such areas as infantry tactics and combat casualty care. Tajik forces will travel to Virginia this summer to celebrate the 20 year of this partnership agreement with the Virginia National Guard. So I wonder about security cooperation in the region generally. Has the shifting geopolitical landscape in the aftermath of the Russian invasion of Ukraine opened up any more opportunities for security partnership in the region?
Absolutely is the answer. Let me first say our state partnerships are amazing in Central Asia, a place that has historically been quite sensitive to outside militaries operating. Our state partnership programs are just so successful everywhere throughout the region. In terms of expanding security engagement, what we all know is Russia has consumed a lot of defense equipment in Ukraine, has gobbled up a lot of its munitions, and is going to find it very difficult to resupply its own stockpiles, but certainly to export to other countries will be very difficult for a long time if it ever is able to restore its position as a defense exporter. This is critical for countries in Central Asia, all of which rely on Russian hardware to defend their borders. And imagine if you're one of the frontline states with Afghanistan and suddenly you're worried about getting spare parts for your airplanes or bullets for your rifles. This has got them very concerned. And so we are talking with them about where they might source defense equipment from us, from European partners, from South Korea, from Japan, from Israel.
Would they have reticence about incorporating us deeper into these partnerships because of the first point that you raised, which is the economic coercion from China, create some challenges? Or does the fact that we've already had these state partnership programs give us a good toehold that we can potentially expand in this time when Russia's influence is maybe a little bit on the decline?
I think China has the advantage in being a replacement supplier because of cost.
Yeah.
All the other countries I mentioned have an advantage because of quality. Everyone's seen how the Russian equipment has performed on the battlefield in Ukraine, frankly, the Chinese equipment is derived from Russian technology, and so everyone wonders whether that'll work either. There's a real interest in diversification. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for these countries because the Russians know it'll be very hard for these countries to be supplied from Moscow.
Thank you. And I have one more question, Mr. Chair. Could I extend? And again, for Secretary Liu, I've got a lot of constituents in Virginia who have been raising questions about violence against protesters in the Karakalpakstan region of Uzbekistan. So I'd like you to share any conversations you had with the Uzbek government about the need for accountability, need for due process for defendants, standing trial, and other human rights concerns.
Thank you, Senator. Secretary did raise the violent protests in Karakalpakstan, the need for accountability, both on behalf of those who may have committed violence as protesters, but also on the behalf of the security forces who may have committed excesses. As we know, dozens of people were killed in that violence. What he was told is that there will be accountability. We are seeing right now open trials for the protesters. We were assured there would be open and transparent trials also for police and other security forces, some of whom have already been arrested for excesses committed in Karakalpakstan.
Thank you very much, Senator Kaine. We'll do a second